and welcome to my initial ideas video where I'll be discussing 3 initial ideas I had for my movie trailer. So my first idea was a social realism based film, however it's going to hybridise with a romance because I want it to be based on the idea of Romeo and Juliet. So in this film it's going to have 2 gangs, but it's going to have 2 gang leaders that absolutely hate each other and have a lot of conflict. But the twist in the film is that one of the gang leaders falls in love with the other gang leader's sister and gets her pregnant. So it shows themes of love, conflict, relationships, friendships and crime all throughout the film. Typical locations of this film would be built up city areas such as council estates and places with high-rise buildings or smaller houses to show the class that the film is based on and the realistic setting. So for this idea I need a lot of characters because I need 2 gangs worth of people which I predominantly want to be made up of males to show that they're more aggressive and violent. I'd also want some females in my film because I wanted to show that they're more vulnerable than the males, and I'd also want some older parent figures that would show that the younger youths that I'd use are rebellious. So I'd need a big cast if I was going to do this idea. That's why I kind of think that I maybe wouldn't do it because I don't have that many friends to fill all the roles and I don't know that many people. For this film I would use a combination of both high key and low key lighting, as I would use high key lighting to show the daytime and the equilibrium within the trailer and to show the characters and the setting so the audience can clearly identify that. And then at night time and when there's a disequilibrium I would use low key lighting because that's where things such as crime and conflict happen. So I'd use low-key lighting then. Within this idea I would also use conventional props such as alcohol, drugs and cigarettes that are also used within other social realism films such as Kidulthood to portray the genre of my film and to represent the characters. So moving on to my second idea, that is a horror film but it's got a subgenre of slasher, and I wanted it to be based on both Halloween by Rob Zombie and Friday the 13th. So the typical plot of this film would be about a child who's had a really hard upbringing and been bullied throughout his life and tortured by his parents. However, when his mum died, he ran off and escaped to this woods where he became a psychopath over time and started killing people who came to the forest who weren't supposed to come. So it all ends really badly. So for this idea I would have to use mainly low-key lighting to make the overall trailer look darker and more scary so the audience can't actually identify who the killer is and who's actually in danger, which makes the whole trailer look much more exciting and mysterious. I'd need a lot less characters in this idea than I would for the first idea, but I'd still need a large cast as I'd need a group of teenagers who rebel against their parents and go into the forest where they're actually forbidden. So that means I also need some parents to actually tell their kids not to go there. I'd also want a child to show the child at the beginning who got tortured and abused and then who grew up to be a psychopath, so I'd want someone older to show the progression in age. In comparison to my other idea, I think this is easily achievable because I've already thought of my friends and who would fit their specific roles, and I think that cast is easily achievable rather than my first idea which needed mainly boys and hard-looking ethnic people to fill up the gang members. I'd use conventional props that are in slasher films such as phallic weapons like a knife, which shows that the antagonist who's using the weapon is dangerous and violent and also can represent that he's sexually frustrated because he's using a phallic weapon like a knife. I would also use props such as a mask, which is also conventional in slasher films like Friday the 13th and Halloween, because it shows that the antagonist wants to hide his identity and makes the whole film look much more mysterious to connote the actual horror genre of the film. I also want to use props such as alcohol bottles and speakers and things that are associated with teenagers who are partying and things to actually represent a group of teenagers that want to go into the forest as typical youths and what they do and show that they're actually quite rebellious. So my third and last idea is also a horror film but has a different subgenre of a supernatural, and I want it to be based on films such as The Boy and Annabelle. So the typical plot of this film would be about a newlywed couple who move into a new house. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere and it's really cheap and run down. and the woman's actually pregnant with a baby, and over time they find out that the house is slightly haunted from an old spirit, which is from a child who actually got tortured and died in that house, and is trying to kill the woman's child as like revenge. So everywhere in the house is haunted, and there's like an evil spirit like roaming around. Typical locations that I would use when filming this idea would be a really isolated area with just like one house that's not near anywhere, to make the chance of like someone helping the family out from escaping the spirit like very unlikely, because I want them to be really alone and isolated and stuck with this evil spirit and they can't do anything about it. I wouldn't need a big cast for this film, as all I want is the actual family, so a male and a woman and a baby who should have. I'd also want like someone to play the spirit, but I'd only need like their voice for it really, because I'd only want sound effects, or I'd use actual like editing techniques to make it look like there's a spirit but there's not actually one there, so I wouldn't need an actor to fulfill that role. I may also want to use other characters such as like the helpers and the heroes of the film who come into the haunted house and try and save the family from the evil spirit, like the ones in The Conjuring who try and help stop the spirit destroying everything and killing everyone. In supernatural films, it's conventional to use mainly low-key lighting to show like the darkness and the scariness of the film. So for this idea, I would mainly use low-key lighting to add more fear to my trailer. I've thought about the different types of props I could use in this idea, so I thought I could use like noisy objects that I could associate with like kids' toys, like rattles or like the rocking horse, that are quite conventional in supernatural films to show that there's paranormal activity happening. So I'd have like the baby's rattle that'd be silent, and all of a sudden it would start making a noise to show that there's an evil spirit that is actually present in the room. I would also use props such as the crucifix in this film, because it's conventional to use throughout other supernatural films such as The Conjuring, because it represents the use of Satan and the evil spirit that are used in supernatural films. So overall, I think I'll pick my second idea because it's the most realistic to actually achieve well, because I have a good location in mind and the right cast to fulfill all the roles.